morning. We shall begin with the topic theory of gravimetric analysis, wherein yesterday we have completed some introductory part regarding this topic. That is, we have seen the introductory part of this topic. Then we have proceed further with the important terminologies that we come across while studying this topic. After the completion of the study of the important terms such as the gravimetry, precipitation, precipitant, precipitate, ignition, aging or digestion, coagulation, peptization, and nucleation, all these terms that we have already covered yesterday. We have also begin with the steps involved in the gravimetric estimation, where we have enlisted some 8 different terms. The first step is a precipitation, second step is a digestion, third step is a filtration, fourth step is a washing of precipitate, fifth step is a drying of precipitate, sixth step is the ignition of precipitate, then seventh step is the accurate weighing of the precipitate on digital balance, and last step is a determination of amounts of constituents using the gravimetry factor. So all these steps that we have carried out in laboratory last year during the gravimetric estimation of barium and iron. We have also started with the first step that is involved in gravimetric analysis, which is very important during the estimation of any analyte. The first step is a precipitation. Utmost care should be taken during this first step, that is a precipitation. That is, whatever you are getting the weight at the end, the quantity of this weight wholly depends upon how you carry out the precipitation process. So it should be carried out with utmost care. The process of precipitation that involves 3 important steps that we have already discussed. The first step that we have discussed is the nucleation, that is a formation of nuclei, that is small particles of the precipitate of microscopic size that serves as a center for the subsequent formation of a precipitate. And after this formation of a small nuclei, some 4 to 5 ions unite so as to form the crystal nuclei, and they grow in size. So in this regard, we have seen that during this precipitation process, the addition of the precipitating reagent which induces the process of precipitation, that serves an important criterion. So this precipitating reagent that should be added very carefully with vigorous stirring. During the stirring, we have seen yesterday that there are 2 types of phenomena that come into play, that is homogeneous and heterogeneous. Homogeneous means by addition of a precipitate, the precipitate particles they grow in size and we get a bulky precipitate. This is known as a homogeneous precipitation. And second is heterogeneous precipitation. When we add a precipitating reagent to the analyzed solution, then while stirring, the dust particles, or if some minute impurities are present, or the scratches which are present on the glass rod or on the sides of the beaker, this serves as the inducing media, and because of this the precipitation process is induced. Here it is known as a heterogeneous type of nucleation process. So this is all about the nucleation, that is the first step in the precipitation. The second step that is involved in precipitation is known as the crystal growth. As we have seen that during the first step, that is the formation of small nuclei of microscopic size. Now the second step begins after the formation of a center for the formation of a nucleus of a microscopic size. If we add the precipitate during this process very slowly and with vigorous stirring, now the already formed particles of the precipitate, they grow in size, that is known as the crystal growth. So the precipitate particles they grow in size to a different fashion, and hence this step during the gravimetric analysis is also very important. So once the smaller nuclei are formed, it continues to grow by a continuous deposition of the particles of the precipitate on the nuclei till the average size of the particle is reached. For the initial precipitate, at the same time, the cations, those are present, that is positively charged species if are present. For example, if it is a solution of barium chloride, then barium plus 2 ions, they are acting as a positively charged, that is cations. And when sulfuric acid, hot sulfuric acid is added to the solution containing barium chloride, then the negative ions from the precipitating reagent, that is sulfate ions, SO4 2 minus, they easily combines with the barium ions from the solution and they grow in size. So this is how the crystal growth takes place on the already formed precipitate, that is known as a crystal growth. These positive and negative ions are deposited at a specified site in orderly and uniform geometrical pattern, leading to built a crystal lattice. So whatever quantity of the physical form of precipitate that is produced by addition and stirring of the solution during the addition of precipitating reagent, these crystal nuclei, they grow in size to a definite manner. So this is how the already formed nuclei, they grow in size. So here the second step that comes to an end. First step under precipitation is a nucleation. Second step under precipitation process is a crystal growth, and after complete formation of crystal growth, that is by adding some excess amount of the precipitating reagent, the third step begins is a digestion. This digestion has four different words. First word is a digestion. Second word is a aging of precipitate. Third word is a maturing of precipitate. Fourth word is a recrystallization of the precipitate. And one more terminology is there, that is known as a Ostwald's ripening. So in this digestion process, we have carried out this digestion process, that this is a process of heating the precipitate in contact with the mother liquor at least for 1 hour or so at elevated temperature. Elevated temperature means at a very high temperature. So we are keeping the beaker which contains the mother liquor as well as the precipitate on a steam bath, hot water bath, or on a sand bath. So here a care should be taken that you should not stir the solution, because the precipitate particles, they are randomly oriented in the mother liquor. The main purpose of the digestion is that here we have to bring the precipitate into easily filterable form. So after keeping this beaker which contains the precipitate for some time, after its formation, that gives a product with an improved crystal lattice, the purity, the particle size, and filterability. All this in a nutshell is known as a digestion, or it is known as a aging or maturing, recrystallization, or Ostwald's ripening. So the definition is rather very lengthy. The process of heating the precipitate in contact with the mother liquor at elevated temperature without stirring for some time, the formation, it gives the product with an improved crystal lattice. That means due to digestion process, the crystal lattice, the crystal structure of the precipitate or the physical form of the precipitate, that has changed. The purity also increases, the particle size is also increased. In addition to this, the filterability of this precipitate, that is also increased during the process of digestion. So what is the exact mechanism that is followed during this digestion process? During digestion, The adjacent particles which are present in the mother liquor, they adjoin, that means they combine or bridge to each other so as to form a bigger aggregates. So during the initial stage, the mother liquor which contains the precipitate particles, the mother liquor appears to be somewhat milky white in color because the precipitate particles are randomly oriented inside the solution. So during the digestion, the particles which are present adjacent to each other, they redeposit and they form a bigger aggregates. So they bridged to each other and yield a larger and more perfect crystal aggregates. And after the formation of bigger aggregates, the density of such precipitate is increased, and because of increased density, that precipitate settles down at the bottom, making the mother liquor very much clear. So this makes the solution easier for filtration. So during digestion, fine particles tend to pass into the solution and ultimately they redeposit on the larger particles which are already present in the mother liquor. Thus, due to the solution and recrystallization process. So, the crystallization process that leads to the easily filterable process of the already formed precipitate. So, many pockets of imperfection become exposed to the solution. The contaminants, that means the impurities, are thus are freed from the solid and more perfect crystals are formed. That means the impurities are removed because of the digestion process. This is one of the most important outcome or the advantage of a digestion process. Hence, the effect is sometimes called as Oswald's ripening. The solid thus reduces the surface area and thus becomes more rounded and perfect and aggregates for the larger size particles. Thus, the spontaneous process of the digestion, it is leads to the decrease in the impurities and it is also gives certain better results during the course of digestion. So this is known as a digestion, aging, maturing, recrystallization or the Oswald's ripening process. We have carried out this digestion process during our course of practicals. Digestion can be carried out by two important steps. The first step is that after the formation of precipitate, we have to keep the beaker in a dark cupboard for about 12 to 24 hours. After keeping this beaker in a dark in a cupboard for about longer time, then the precipitate particles which are suspended in the mother liquor, they slowly settle down at the bottom, forming a bigger aggregates. This is the lengthy process because we have to keep the beaker for a very long period of time in contact with mother liquor. But if we want to carry out the process of digestion very fast that we are conducting in the laboratory, then the solution which contains the precipitate particle that is heated or warmed at elevated temperature in contact with the mother liquor by using sand bath or by using steam bath. Here, by using this either of this process, the main object of this process is to bring about the complete precipitation and in that to a suitable physical form so that it can be quantitatively filtered. That means after completion of digestion, the precipitate can be easily filtered. That means the precipitate is converted into easily filterable form. No one method can be applied universally because there are different types of precipitates are present for which sometimes this digestion process may differ from the nature of physical form of the precipitate also. Now, what are the optimum conditions for the effective process of precipitation. Now, there are certain basic conditions by which the process of good precipitation that takes place during the gravimetric analysis, as I have referred earlier, that the process of precipitation has a prime importance because whatever quantity of precipitate to be weighed at the end, that quantity is decided in the precipitation process. So much more emphasis that should be given on the formation of a good quality and the quantity of the precipitate. So you should bear in mind during the practicals certain points, that is the optimum conditions for good precipitation. To separate what is the precipitation process, yesterday we have seen that the separation of an insoluble solid from the solution is known as a precipitation. So to separate the substance as a dense, coarse, granular, crystalline, crystalline weight as a pure and as a complete as possible, it is known as a precipitation process, and it is carried out under specified conditions. That means there are the conditions are specified without which the quantitative precipitation may not be possible. Such recognized conditions applicable to all cases of precipitation in gravimetry. There are certain 7 to 8 conditions that we should follow during the gravimetric analysis, and these processes you are already familiar. I shall enlist all the processes one by one, then you will realize that these processes or these steps that you have already carried out during the practicals. What is the first optimum condition? That the precipitation must be carried out from the hot solution. We have heated the solution before the precipitation, so the precipitation should be carried out only in a hot condition. That since the solubility of the precipitate generally increases with rise in temperature, as we know, the rate of crystallization, that is also rate of crystallization, and also the growth of crystals of the precipitate, that also increases with rise in temperature. So the rate and the growth of crystals also favored with rise in temperature. This is the first condition, that the solution should be hot. The hot solution renders the proper crystal growth. The second optimum condition is that precipitation should be carried out from a dilute solution. Perhaps you might be remembering that when we supplied the solution for the estimation, first step is the dilution of the solution. We have diluted the solution to the required limit, that is about 250 ml, by using distilled water. So the precipitation should be carried out in dilute solution. In addition to hot solution, it should be diluted solution. So these diluted solutions which minimize the errors in gravimetry. So one should not use the concentrated solutions for the gravimetric process. This is the second step. First step is a solution should be hot. Second step is a solution should be dilute solution. Third step, the precipitant, that is which brings about the precipitation process or which induces the process of precipitation, the precipitant should be added very slowly. Suppose for example, if we require 20 ml of precipitant or precipitating reagent, it should not be added wholly to the solution, because the process of precipitation takes place in 3 stages: nucleation, crystal growth, and digestion. And hence we have to add the precipitating reagent very slowly with vigorous stirring. This is very important in the process of precipitation. Fourth optimum condition is that the precipitation should be carried out in the presence of suitable reagent. The reagent should be suitable, that increases the solubility of the precipitate and helps to provide the larger primary particles. This is known as a nucleation, as we know. So For example, if we are conducting the barium gravimetric solution, then by pipetting out 50 ml of the diluted solution, we have added concentrated HCl solution, which enhances the process of precipitation. The fifth condition is that the precipitation must be carried out with a slight moderate excess of precipitant. Suppose, for example, during the process of precipitation, if for complete precipitation 20 ml of precipitant is required, and if by some means if we have added little quantity than the required quantity, instead of 20 ml if we add 10 ml of precipitating reagent, then only the quantity that is added, that is 10 ml, that much quantity of the barium ions they combine with the sulfate ions and they form the precipitate of barium sulfate. That means here the complete precipitation does not take place. Why? Because inadequate addition of the precipitating reagent that renders the incomplete precipitation. So to have complete precipitation, the precipitating reagent should be added little excess. The precipitating reagent, if it is added less, then the results may go wrong. So precipitating reagent must be added in excess. Then the sixth optimum condition, the precipitation should be followed by digestion or by aging of the precipitate, preferably under the conditions of increased solubility, that is at increased temperatures, because solubility increases with rising temperature as we know. Then the seventh condition is that the precipitate should be washed with hot and other dilute solution of a suitable electrolyte. For example, suppose for example, if we are carrying a barium gravimetric estimation, then to remove the impurities, we have used hot distilled water as a washing solution. But during the gravimetric estimation of iron as ferric oxide, Fe as Fe2O3, hot water is not suitable for washing, because hot water does not remove, or hot water unable to remove the impurities which are present in the during this process. If hot distilled water is used, then hot distilled water may not remove the impurities which are present in the ferric hydroxide precipitate. Perhaps you might be remembering that reddish brown colored precipitate of ferric hydroxide, which is gelatinous in nature, that contains much more water. Also, it retains much more impurities inside the bulk of this gelatinous precipitate. So, hot water should not be used as a washing solution for the removal of impurities from ferric hydroxide solution, but 1% solution of a weak electrolyte, for example NH4NO3, that is ammonium nitrate, is acting as a weak electrolyte which serves the purpose of removing the impurities from the gelatinous precipitate. So the washing solution differs from precipitate to precipitate. If the precipitate is of barium sulfate, that is a crystalline precipitate, then hot water must be used to remove the impurities. If the precipitate is ferric hydroxide, then weak electrolytic solution such as ammonium nitrate 1% hot solution is used to remove the impurities. Then after this washing of the precipitate, the last condition is that is eighth condition, that if the precipitate is contaminated. What is the meaning of contamination? Contamination means incorporation of an impurity from the solution into the precipitate. That is known as contamination. if the precipitate is contaminated with impurity due to co-precipitation. The meaning of co-precipitation means the precipitation of the impurities with the main precipitate along with the main precipitate is known as a co-precipitate. So these impurities they get also precipitated with the main precipitate, that is known as a co-precipitation. It should be dissolved in a suitable solution and it is again reprecipitated so as to remove the impurities which are co-precipitated during the process of precipitation. Thus, it minimizes the error and the exact weight of the precipitate that is obtained during this process. So, these are the 8 different optimum conditions for the good precipitation process. So, I would like to again enlist because only 3 minutes are left. So, we are again going to click the same link and we shall begin with the today's 2 seminars also, and the remaining part I shall begin in the next week. So I would like to again recall because we are studying only theoretical part, the practical part of which we have already studied during the laboratory course, but the important terminologies should be followed very carefully. Unless you follow these terminologies carefully, then it is very difficult to express or it is difficult to reproduce all these processes. So the optimum conditions for the effective precipitation or good precipitation, first condition is that the solution from which precipitation should be carried out, it must be, the solution should be hot. You should remember in brief, first step is a solution should be hot. Second step, for good precipitation, the second optimum condition is that the solution should be very dilute. The precipitation should be carried out in a diluted solution so as to have complete and bulky precipitation. So first condition is the solution should be hot. Second condition is that the solution should be dilute. And third, the precipitating reagent, which is known as the precipitant, should be added very slowly and with vigorous stirring. This is very important. The precipitant should be added very slowly with vigorous stirring. First is hot, second is dilute, third is precipitating reagent should be added very slowly and with constant stirring. Fourth condition is that precipitation should be carried out only in presence of a suitable reagent or suitable precipitant. If a suitable precipitant is not there, then good precipitation may not be obtained. For example, in the precipitation of barium and barium sulfate, suitable precipitating reagent is the sulfuric acid. Instead of sulfuric acid, if we use another precipitating reagent such as HCl, hydrochloric acid, or nitric acid, then there is not precipitation of barium ions in the solution. Fifth condition is that the reagent which induces the process of precipitation, that is known as the precipitating reagent or precipitant, should be added in excess. So this is a fifth condition. The precipitating reagent should be added in excess. The sixth condition is that the precipitation should be followed by digestion. If we forget to carry out this process, then effective precipitation or the removal of impurities may not be possible, or the crystal growth, all these related processes are stopped if we forget the process of digestion. So after complete precipitation, digestion should be carried out for effective precipitation. Then seventh, the already formed precipitate should be washed with a suitable washing solution. So this process removes the impurities which are incorporated along with the precipitate. So a suitable washing solution should be used so as to remove the impurities. And the last condition is that if the precipitate is contaminated with impurity, due to co-precipitation. Co-precipitation is a formation of another precipitate of impurity along with the main precipitate is known as a co-precipitation. It should be dissolved and it should be recrystallized so as to remove the incorporated impurities. So these are the 8 different optimum conditions during the course of precipitation. Those should be followed. So after 2 minutes, you have to rejoin. We shall begin with the today's seminars.